This is the City of Tucson Redistricting Advisory Committee, Thursday, November 17th, 2022. Item 1, roll call.
Present.
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 Ed Hendel,
Present.
John Aitken, Bobby Adamillo,
Present.
Mark Crum,
Present.
Honorable Chair with 6 of the 7 members present, a quorum of the Redistricting Advisory Committee is established.
Thank you. Item number 2, approval of minutes from November 10th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The minutes have been approved.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe Mr. Aiken is on the line and present.
I am present. I'm sorry, I'm on the line. I'm still traveling for work, so I'm joining remotely.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3, public hearing on redistricting proposals. The Redistricting Advisory Committee is continuing to review and consider options to adjust ward boundaries and equalize ward population. The one-person, one-vote requirement of the United States Constitution requires that members of an elected body be drawn from districts, that is wards, of substantially equal population. A city redistricting plan's constitutional validity under one person, one vote is measured by its MPD, or maximum population deviation. The goal is that an MPD should be less than 10%, which the Supreme Court considers as a minimal deviation as presumptively constitutionally valid. The current MPD for the city is 13.4%. This is due to the change in ward population in the city. The committee first reviewed 2020 census data and determined that redistricting is therefore necessary. In addition to federal requirements, any redistricting plan must comply with the Tucson Charter, which states, quote, "No redistricting plan shall be drawn for the purpose of favoring or disfavoring any political party or person, nor for the purpose of diluting the voting strength of any racial or ethnic minority group. To the extent reasonably practicable, wards shall be equal in population and shall be contiguous and compact," unquote. Additional policy objectives include One, maintain established and recognizable ward boundaries with a minimum of disruption. 2, sustain the compactness of the wards as they previously exist. 3, maintain ethnic balance so as to not dilute the Hispanic vote. 4, give preference to options that will advance, quote, rough proportionality, unquote, of minority voting power. 5, give preference to options that reduce dilution that may otherwise exist from prior packing or fragmenting. And 6, reduce voter confusion by alignment of precincts having populations represented by more than one ward. The committee held a public hearing on November 3rd and voted to continue the hearing to allow for additional community input tonight, and again on November 29th. At our meeting last week on November 10th, the committee voted to put forward 2 proposals for public consideration. They are marked as Proposal 2A and 2B. Proposal 2A was presented as is. It has an MPD of 2.96%. Proposal 2B amends Proposal 2A by moving Precinct 37 from Ward 1 to Ward 3. It has an MPD of 5.53%. The MPD for both proposals is well below the 10% the United States Supreme Court considered presumptively valid. With that introduction, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time and place for a public hearing for the redistricting proposals. Speakers are limited to 5-minute presentations. Please come forward when I call your name and make your presentation. State your name, whether or not you live in the city, whom you are representing, and whether or not you are a paid speaker. First speaker, Jonathan Salvatore.
My name is Jonathan Salvatierra. I'm a native Tucsonan, resident of Tucson, retired railroader, and a real estate broker. And a lot of the things that are affecting my neighborhood, which is near Broadway and Park, which is what I've known to be in one of the aspects here, the 2B, to take property from Ward 5 to Ward 1. It seems somewhat awkward that we have guidelines to create equality, to create a better form of justice and more parity and reciprocity between our governing body and the public. And some things work and some things are meant to disenfranchise. And I honestly, sincerely believe that this 2B is to disenfranchise. It's going to do it in 2 ways. First of all, the Precinct 37 is very, very well-established green minority space, period. It doesn't get farmed out to some other ward. It doesn't go anywhere else. Every other ward has their own green space, and we deserve ours. That's my feeling. The fundamental tenet. We need to be inclusive, not exclusive. And separating these 2 places actually it nullifies the whole existence of South Tucson. The mayor and council created a mandate to acknowledge that South Tucson needs to become a part of the city. So instead of creating checkerboard stuff back and forth, give South Tucson, its fair share as a Ward 7. That way you don't have to do anything with Ward 1. Take contiguous aspects of these other wards, create a new ward for South Tucson. Their culture is ideal. The food, the humanity, the things that we need to, bring up from that community to balance and proportion other things. They've had very, very poor water. Environmental issues have gone aside. And these are the whole reasons that this parity and this contiguous ward identification is so important. Because if it's done too soon preceding a major event, like I'm a member of Ward or Legislative District 20, and they changed everything. They move people around. So leadership gets moved around too. And if you think that's not fragmenting a community, it is. So that's why I would recommend that nothing be done to Ward 1. If anything, create Ward 7 for South Tucson. And we have a mandate from the mayor and council, whether they like it or not. You have to take the good and the challenging together. But, they have needs as well. And we need to fulfill those goals for each and every person in the community. And the six, I was looking over the 6 guidelines for identifying whether to be or not to be should affect itself. I thought, my God, at least 5 out of 6 are blatant, irreconcilable differences that would be created. And the 6th is only on the use of a word. What does to generalize or to equally partake something? It's a difficult challenge that you face, but one that's relatively simple if you take the politics out of it. Okay? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatierra. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Okay. Next speaker, Pedro Gonzalez.
Buenas tardes. My name is Pedro Gonzalez. I'm from Barrio Viejo, the oldest barrio in Tucson. And I don't get paid for anything I do. Only my wife pays me. I just want to say before I address anything to you all, that no matter what, all the barrios in Tucson are united. We're all united. No matter what, we all have our uniqueness in each barrio. Barrio Viejo has its uniqueness. Barrio Hollywood has its uniqueness. All of us. Barrio Libre has its uniqueness. So I just want to let you know that I was informed by a group of people that this was happening. Ward 6, who represents Ward 6 here? Nobody informed us. When the city wants something, they call me on the phone. They called somebody in Barrio Viejo. We were never informed about redistricting. Not one called me. So I'm upset about this because everything's already been figured out by you guys, but our input's not even in there, and you already have 2 proposals there. You need to go back. Because we don't want to be part of Ward 1. We're precinct 45, and we're at the, I don't know what side of the precinct we're under, but we don't belong in Ward 1. Because Ward 1, they better be careful what they wish for. Because I could run for office if I'm Ward 1. And we actually belong in Ward 5, and we've been addressing this issue for many years to the mayor and council, even before this council is not present. not you, but not you guys, but the mayor and council. We've been addressing, we don't belong in either Ward 1 or Ward 6 because we're the only barrio in Ward 6. We don't get any representation from that ward person in Ward 6, but we get to vote for him or her. So we like to be split into Ward 5, because that's who's been always addressing the issues of Barrio Viejo. Thank you.
Thank you. Colette Althofer.
Good evening. My name is Colette Althofer. I live in the city. I represent myself, and I'm not a paid representative. Much of your discussion last week focused on equity, development, and the freeway. Moving a precinct was seen as something positive for the residents who you felt would benefit from the redevelopment in the area. For several years, I have worked with the Barrio Neighborhood Coalition on the issues of gentrification and displacement. And I'm here to caution you to be careful what you wish for. There is a dark side to redevelopment. From opportunity zones to transit-oriented development to G-plets, these redevelopment tools act as a kind of slow-motion urban renewal that can destroy the very communities they claim to help. Think of this as dominoes falling. Redevelopment increases the value of property. That drives up property taxes, which in turn causes rents to increase. Eventually, the current residents are priced out and forced to move, and their economic circumstances often get worse. In 2012, the city decided it wanted to revitalize downtown, so it chose G-plets as one of the tools to achieve this. Under state law, a city wishing to utilize G-plets must create a central business district. If you are a developer and you either build or refurbish a building in the central business district and the city grants you a G-plet, for the next 8 years, you will pay no property taxes on that building. The central business district is large. The bulk of it sits over downtown, but there are fingers extending out of it, and one of those fingers straddles portion of that freeway that you kept discussing last week. There is an important statutory requirement that is part of the creation of the Central Business District. It is called a revitalization plan. It must be written with input from the residents who will be most impacted by all the new development, and if it is written well, it will contain elements that are designed to act as a kind of backstop against those falling dominoes, helping to reduce the chances of displacement and gentrification while preserving and even encouraging local businesses. Unfortunately, the city chose to ignore that part of the statutory requirement. It named the revitalization plan. It even held one meeting with the affected residents, but it never actually produced this plan. Our mayor, Regina Romero, was the ward representative at the time this occurred, and yet we can find no evidence that she fought to get this revitalization plan written. You have heard from some of the Ward 1 residents about longtime neighbors who have had to move as a result of the development that is creeping out of downtown and into their neighborhoods. I urge you to be mindful of this as you continue the redistricting process. It's easy to focus on something you can see, like a freeway. It becomes harder when you cannot see something like a central business district. It is harder still when something as important as a required revitalization plan does not exist at all. Thank you.
Catherine Weasel.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Weasel. I reside in Tucson, Arizona. I live in Ward 1, and I am president of Enchanted Hills Neighborhood Association. First off, I want to know why everyone knows that a census goes every 10 years, but we're forced to make a decision on redistricting within a matter of a month. Makes no sense. First off, it's supposed to be about minorities, supposed to be about Hispanics, blacks, but it doesn't count illegals. And everybody knows when you check out the census that the Hispanics and the blacks and the illegals do not answer the census. So this is how you count a census. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You don't look at color. You don't look at what you can give them and what you can take away. This is supposed to be non-political. But yet, from your mouth, I hear Ward 1, Lane Santa Cruz. Let me tell you something, mister. She does not represent Ward 1. Nobody that grabs a policeman's baton and says, do you know who the FIM represents Ward 1? And I'm going to tell you, you only showed up, this is your second meeting. Thank you. But you did have a good plan on making and getting rid of the rest of the maps. You have a good attitude and you have a good desire, but confrontation comes with the job. You're a bully. I don't like you. You're racist. You're a bully. There's no way you should be in charge of anything. You and I have a lot in common. But weren't you the one that said, how many registered votes are in that area, in that precinct? No, no, no. And you, sir, Mr. Chair, I do not mean any disrespect, but you hand over your position to a bully. So you could sit there because you had no vitality, no inspiration, and no drive. You're not leading the community. So I believe we need to stay. I believe that we need time to put together a board that is educated, a board that represents all people, and a board that represents all our wards. You guys do not, and I'm sorry, but that's the way Ward 1 says it. And let's see, what else? Oh, I guess that's pretty good. Have a nice evening.
Angie Quiros.
Good evening. First, a comment, no Ward 7. South Tucson has its own identity and is unique in itself. My name is Angie Quiros. I live in the city of Tucson, and I live in Precinct 47. I'm currently serving as Vice President on the board of the Santa Rita Park West Ochoa Barrio Association. I am not a paid speaker. We have historically been an active Precinct 47, working with Ward 5 and the neighborhoods of Ward 5 for decades. Even during the shutdown in the late period of COVID, we held our meetings. This history working with Ward 5 is rooted and it's rich. It includes working on the 22nd Street widening and the very successful skateboard park as led by Navy veteran Albert Gallego, and several other projects, and now starting the work of the 22nd Street Bridge. I have two issues. I've talked with several residents recently about the redistricting. They knew nothing about it. They don't have internet service. They don't have computers. I talked with another friend, issue 2, who's a professional, has computer service, and just recently just learned of this redistricting effort. She couldn't be here tonight because of short notice. Her neighborhood wasn't notified, and they could possibly be impacted. Speaking of the internet service, wasn't there a city project to get internet service to those of limited income? And was anybody know what the status of that is, of that project? Do you not think that as a city, residents and voters deserve to be informed? Wouldn't that be the fair thing to do? Thank you.
Patrick McKenna.
Thank you all, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Patrick Valencia McKenna. I'm the president of the Barrio Hollywood Neighborhood Association. I'm a 7th generation Tucsonan, and I just want to thank you for all your hard work so far that you've done. But I want to let you know that the people in my neighborhood are very concerned because of some of the discussion that happened at the last meeting that this committee held regarding moving precinct 37 and our precinct 18 into Ward 3. Now, just 2 years ago, this issue came before mayor and council, and 2 years ago, they reversed their decision after an overwhelming amount of constituents came out and expressed their dismay at what the city council had done in terms of redistricting. So I would like you definitely to consider that if this committee moves forward with the recommendation to move precinct 37 into Ward 3, we're gonna fight it. And your recommendation, all your hard work, is gonna be out the window. Because I guarantee you, we will show up to mayor and council, and we will fight that proposal. Everybody here that supports keeping the West Side barrios together, stand up. Okay, so just so you know, just like the longtime president of Barrio Viejo came and told you, the barrios are united, as you see. And we're even paying attention to redistricting committee meetings. That's how engaged our community is with the city of Tucson. Where you live, are the residents paying attention to redistricting committee meetings? I bet not. But it's because we have a history of being lied to by the city of Tucson. That's why we have to take a defensive stance when things are being moved around. And make no mistake, this is a political movida that was trying to be made, okay? I'm not gonna mince my words like I did 2 years ago. This is an absolute political movida to get rid of the West Side and silence us, okay? Because we wanna be a part of Ward 1, so why would you wanna kick us out? But with the last few minutes of my time, let's just play out the scenario, okay? Which was not well thought through because precinct 18 cannot be moved because the council member lives in that precinct. So that wasn't well thought out, was it? Okay? The council office is in precinct 18. So you proposed moving the council member out of her own district, okay? So you need to pay attention. This is serious what you guys are doing. So you need to pay attention better to what you're doing, okay? Because it affects a lot of people, okay? So we already see that you guys didn't even play that out, but let's play it out, okay? You want to move more brown votes into Ward 3 so you can elect another person of color to Ward 3, right? So we have to be sacrificed for somebody's for somebody's identity politics agenda, right? Yeah. Okay? Fine, let's play it out. Let's say you move precinct 37 and throw in 18 too. Let's say you could do it. And you move all those brown votes into Ward 3. And what happens? Kevin Dahl just got elected to Ward 3 and he's doing a damn good job. And I don't think he's going anywhere. So what, he's the wrong color now? So now you're gonna move precinct 37, now you're gonna elect a brown person in Ward 3 now? How does that make sense? When Kevin Dahl steps down, maybe 10, 12 years from now, then maybe we can elect this brown person in Ward 3. Think about what you guys are doing. The movida has been exposed and it needs to die here. Don't put no bad proposals to the council because we will show up to mayor and council and we will fight that bad policy. Thank you.
Trish Muir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you to all the members of the Redistricting Committee for serving. I appreciate that. It is important work that you do. And I thank you for your time and your consideration this evening. Can you hear me okay? I can't ever tell if the mic works for me, sorry.
If you can speak right into the mic,
Right
that
into
helps a
it?
lot.
I'm short, there it is.
There
I'm
you
a shorty, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm speaking to you tonight as the chair of the Barrio Neighborhood Coalition. And our coalition, as you may or may not know, is a grassroots community response to the accelerated gentrification and displacement that has taken place initially in the downtown core, surrounding barrios and neighborhoods, and now creeps outward ever further, casting off working families and leaving chaos in its wake. We are here tonight in solidarity with the community, and we're using our voice to express our complete opposition to the move proposed in Map 2B. At the last redistricting committee, it was the Ward 1 representative who suggested Precinct 37 be moved into Ward 3. And we would again like to remind the committee of the public outcry and contempt that move received only 2 years ago. You said, as it was pointed out by other speakers this evening, that you thought maybe people would feel differently, and let's roll the dice and find out. And I hope that tonight satisfies your curiosity about that. That you have found out how the community feels about that roll of the dice. Looking at the base map, it appears to me that you sort of have three problems to address. First, that Ward 1 is about 6,000 residents under its target population, right? Secondly, that Ward 4 is about 6,000 residents over its target population. And then lastly, that your total MPD is 13.4%, exceeding the maximum of 10%. Those are the problems that you need to be addressing, not creating a reason for all of these hardworking people to be away from their families after a long day at work, to have to come down here and repeat all of the protests that were provided to this committee only last week by more than one of your members. Now, there was also discussion about the distribution of the Latino population, and I'd like to look closer at these points, these 4 points now in total, and how your current proposed maps would impact them. The two maps on the table are 2A and 2B. Your first map, 2A, so Ward 6 is about 6,000 residents short of the target. Map 2A puts them pretty close to the goal, only 723 residents shy of the desired number. Map 2A also gets pretty close to fixing the issue in Ward 4, decreasing the number there. They're only over by about 860 residents. And your total MPD is 2.96. And that's pretty darn good for people who follow redistricting committee meetings. Normally you don't get numbers like that. That's a pretty good one. As far as the demographics go, you see an 0.8% increase in the Latino population in Ward 1, and maybe a 1.5% decrease in Ward 5. Now looking at map 2B, again, base level in Ward 1 is 6,000 residents short of its target goal. Map 2B still leaves them 3,526 residents shy of the goal of that target of 90,000 residents. I'd like to point out the only difference between 2A and 2B is precinct 37. Okay? This map leaves you short 3,526 residents. Precinct 37 is made up of 2,803 residents. If you leave precinct 37 in Ward 1, your problem is solved, right? Problem solved there. On the Ward 4 problem, again, the maps as they relate to Ward 4 are the same, and you're pretty close to the goal, right? That's the same in both maps. Your MPD number, however, is within range, but it's higher if you went with map 2B. It goes up to 5.53%, so not quite as desirable. And then again, if we look at the demographics, we look at the Latino population distribution argument, both maps increase the Latino population in Ward 1 over the base map. So then we look at Ward 3, which is where the esteemed representative from Ward 1 wanted to increase the Latino population. I'm running out of time, sorry. The difference between map 2A and 2B as far as the total Latino increase is less than 0.1%. That's your net gain for Ward 3. If you move precinct 37, as map 2B suggests, you get an increase of 0.1%. Does not accomplish what you were stating it should do or what your desired outcome was. So in between these two, I think If you're looking at your policy objectives, map 2A satisfies that, 2B moves you in the other direction. So I would hope you would take that under consideration this evening. Thank you.
Ernie Lujan.
Good evening. My name is Ernie Lujan, and I live in the city, and I represent myself, and I'm not paid. And I'm here to just express my objection to the way I'm also the president of the Santa Rita West Ochoa Neighborhood Association. And for many years, I've been involved with that neighborhood association, going back even to the 90s when Steve Leal was our council representative. And we had some CDBG monies, and we advocated for sidewalk and light improvements and planting of trees. But ever since then, we've always had the relationship with Ward 5. And so you're gonna make our neighborhood, the whole neighborhood, is gonna be moved into Ward 1. And the other conflict I see with that is we'll have to have a new relationship with a new council member, start from scratch all over again after we've done all this footwork of being associated with our representatives very well. And the other thing I see a problem with is also gonna become if we go into Ward 1, that means that the relationship with Ward 1 would have to establish a new relationship also with the representatives from the police department, because we're serviced by Southside. And right now, Ward 1 is all West Side subdivision for the police department. And so we've done a real good relationship building too with our Southside police captain and also our sergeants and officers. And so our representative now for the city, which is Ward 1, will have to establish a new relationship also with the police department, and I think that's going to derail some of the work we've done with them also. So we're against it too. And also, I've heard a lot about also the Norte Sur project or Sur Norte project, and it's right in the middle of that. And it's coincidentally, all of a sudden now we're doing this redistricting, and I'm not sure what that has to do with it, but it doesn't seem right to me that during all that we're in the middle of changing who represents us now. And so our neighborhood is totally against that, and we're with an association here also with the rest of the Barrios Unidos. Thank you.
Miguel Ortega.
Good evening. My name is Miguel Ortega. I am the Vice President of the Ironwood Ridge Neighborhood Association. Ironwood Ridge is just south of Grant and east of Silver Bell. We are walking distance from Joaquin Murrieta Park. Okay. Our neighborhood is solidly opposed to the proposal to move Precinct 37, the home of Sobaco, El Rio, Silvercroft historic area, into Ward 3, okay? Now, you have a lot of very eloquent people who could speak to the decades of history. It's amazing. It was amazing to us when the mayor or the council member at that time proposed to sell off El Rio to the Grand Canyon University. A lot of us were scratching our heads. You really want this fight? I guess she did, and she lost overwhelmingly. The community came together. So there's a rich history here when you think of El Rio as the lungs of the West Side and Joaquin Murrieta Park as the heart of the West Side. That's what you're messing with. You didn't do your homework, and I applaud Ed for bringing that up to you over and over and over again, but you wanted to roll the dice with the fate of working people on the West Side, and now that you rolled the dice, you're gonna see what's gonna happen, okay? So I like to talk a little bit about the small things, all right? Because there's the big things about development and all these movidas by the politicians trying to find ways to, make the developers richer on the backs of senior citizens on fixed incomes. We understand the big picture and all the big elephants, the big movidas. But there's the small things that when you add them up, add up to the big things. We keep talking about I-10 and being that barrier, that's stopping the people historically. Yeah, that is true. It stopped the people from dividing our communities. But What you're doing now with this proposal is you're creating a new barrier, silver bell. You're going to have working families who use Joaquin Murrieta Park, El Rio Neighborhood Center, dealing with 2 council members, right? Because they don't know who to go to. That disenfranchises people. We all know who it is that uses these resources at El Rio and Joaquin Murrieta Park. And they're not our good friends on the Ward 3 side, right? They're welcome to come, and they do. They come and they walk their dogs, but that's like 10%. The vast majority of people that utilize Joaquin Murrieta Park and El Rio are brown working class people on the west side. That's why we've been united as barrios for so long to fight and advocate for those resources that are so precious to us. So we started late 2 years ago. You got us making tamales. You got us late. In December, we organized. We figured it out. We canvassed. This time, we got a little bit of time. We haven't even started making the masa. So you roll the dice. You got some, a fight coming to you.
Glenda Avalos.
Mi nombre es Glenda Ábalos y vengo delante de ustedes en el nombre de Jesús. My name is Glenda Ábalos, and I come before you in the name of Jesus. We've heard people from Precinct 47. We've heard from Barrio Hollywood. We've heard for all the west sides. I come before you for 244. In case you did not know, because it does seem like this committee is disconnected from its people. The history. We are in a housing crisis. I have served the Tucson and South Tucson community just under 18 years in different capacities. We see the families who are struggling simply to get by and pay their rent. With the rent increases that are happening, it's sinful. And then we want to throw something like this. Gentrification has multiple layers. Educate yourselves. Connect to the community. If you're going to take on roles that are going to jeopardize people's livelihoods, then educate yourself in the community. If you don't know what is happening, then you go. Because right now, some might say, I was here at the first public meeting you had. We had a lot of our Caucasian neighborhood speaking just like we do today. And there is power in that. But just because this precinct is not here today doesn't mean that their voice is diminished. I would like all the Barrios Unidos to stand with me, because this, even though it's a small, significant percentage, you may say, in election time, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. This particular map, both of them, both B, A and B, go ahead and mess with the diluting of the Hispanic population, even if it's just a significant amount for you. But for us, it's not. So I ask to quietly stand and raise your hands with me for all of this, for 47, for 24. You have not asked that. Our communities come together and we tell you, look a different way, because we are no longer going to go ahead and allow even a significant number to be taken. We will stand and we will guard the line. Our communities deserve better. They deserve better. Better representation, people who are committed, people who are connected in the community.
Betsy Larson.
I don't know. Hello, my name is Betsy Larson. I'm representing West University Neighborhood Association. I don't know if I'm out of line here to speak. As far as I understand, proposals 1 through 3 are still being discussed. So I'm here to kind of reignite the opposal to number 3. So I guess our biggest concerns with West University neighborhood is we are Arizona's largest historic district, and there's a lot of complexities in preserving what has been destroyed throughout the other parts of the city. So we're fighting every day to keep our spaces protected. And so Ward 6 has been a great ally. They have an institutional knowledge that is hard to find in the city. And so going forward, we'd really like to continue working with Ward 6. And another aspect that Ironwood, our Iron Horse brought up last month as well was the representation of the University of Arizona and our cohesiveness. So to divide West University from the University of Arizona into different wards certainly doesn't serve our constituents very well. We are ingrained with the university and its culture in many ways. So I just wanted to kind of show up today and hold firm on our opposition of Proposal 3. And going forward, I hear a lot of anger and frustration with the city, but I understand that this deadline is not city imposed, it's from the state. So can you guide us to the appropriate people that we should be yelling our frustrations at? I think that would help prevent this from happening again if we can direct it to the right people. But how do we continue, how do we avoid this in the future, and who do we need to talk to keep the state from dictating and giving us such short notice for this problem? So if you can address that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Nikki Brown.
Hello, my name is Nikki Brown. I live in the city. I was not paid. I represent myself. I've worked on the west side and lived for my entire life. I've worked at the Albertsons for 23 years. I've been part of the west side neighborhoods, working and protesting and being there for our neighborhood people and everything my whole entire life. Me and my daughter have been displaced already several times. I talk to the elderly, the kids, everyone, every age, and they're being displaced. They can't make rent. They're getting kicked out of their houses. It's like becoming a plague. And we've been trying to do everything we can to make this not happen anymore, but it's still happening. So if you guys could just please help us out with this. We're gonna stay united forever. Nothing's gonna let us back down, but if you guys were on our side, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Brian Flagg.
Hey, I'm Brian Flagg. I live in South Tucson at Casa Maria on 26th and 3rd. And when I go out my door every morning to go to work, I walk about 50 feet north and I cross an alley and I'm in Tucson. So my world and the world of a lot of us, it's like that border don't mean nothing. It's like we cross the border and we're part of Tucson too. So that the precinct, this guy that's on this commission alerted some people that we know about 47, and he said, hey, like look, there's only this sliver to the south of you that's going to get moved out into Ward 1. And I went, really? I looked at the map and I went, sliver? That's Barrio Chicano. That goes all the way from like where Southgate is, all the way down to Irvington, between 6th Avenue and 12th Avenue. That's this big, huge chunk of the south side. And it's going into Ward 1 when right now it's in Ward 5. And what they're giving us as Ward 5 is a bunch of precincts from Ward 4 I mean, that's a whole different world, Ward 4. So what it does is it dilutes who we are as Ward 5. It dilutes how would you say it, the minority aspect, the brownness of Ward 5. And it really is a political thing. Political movida. It's a political thing, because say that we're gonna, like, me and a bunch of people we know are gonna get as progressive a person as we can to run for Ward 5. Man, I want Barrio Chicano voting for him and not these southeast side precincts that have a whole different world. So one thing is political movida, and the other thing is Barrios Unidos. Thank you.
Gabriel Bonias. Is Gabriel here? Okay, moving on then. Blanca Luna. Is Blanca here? Cesar Aguirre.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for your time. My name is Cesar Aguirre. I actually live in the city of South Tucson, but I own a business in the city of Tucson in Ward 5. I was born and raised here in Tucson. I've been part of many committees and groups. I've worked with Barrio Neighborhood Coalition and different neighborhood associations over the years. I've done a lot of work around public education, especially when my kids were younger. And so, and I recently was elected to the city of South Tucson City Council. And thank you. And I also oppose 2B. And I really, really recommend that you all take some time to listen to the community and engage the community in this process, because the reason I chose to run for office is because of the lack of real democracy, the lack of community engagement, the lack of outreach from the politicians and our government to the community. And doing the work, the activist work that I've done over the years, dealing with the city of Tucson, I've seen the history. I know how it works. And we've heard it over and over again tonight. The west side and the south side are continually being attacked. And we will fight tooth and nail to the very end to protect our communities. And we won't stop. We're gonna be here. And so I encourage you all to really listen to the community and take the time to engage them, and not just listen to them, but allow them to be part of this process and let them help you make the right choices to present to mayor and council. And that way we can work together and make this happen, because I don't trust our city government to do the right thing for the people, because most of us can't get out here. We can't get out here to speak. We can't get out here to engage with you all, or with the politicians, I should say, because we work. We raise families. We've got a lot going on. I run a business. I had to take time out of my evening to come out here and speak today, but I'm going to do it because I love my community, and we're going to keep fighting. So thank you.
Alejandro Salomon Escamilla.
Buenas noches. My name is Alejandro Salomon Escamilla, but most people know me as Salo Escamilla. And I'm not a resident of the city of Tucson. I live in the county, but I do enjoy, especially the West Side barrios and the South Side barrios. And I've been a teacher in the Tucson Unified School District. I'm going on my 21st year right now, teaching mostly Chicana and Chicano studies, but also history in general. What's going on right here reminds me of a lot of history lessons I've taught. Whether it's from Chavez Ravine to Barrio El Hoyo. I don't know if you are familiar with these stories in history, but they're basically the stories. I'm speaking to all of you, but in particular to the mayor and to all the council members who claim a raza identity, Chicano identity, or if you want to call it a Latinx, go ahead, that's cool with me, you know. But whatever you want to call it, like our homie from history, Corky Gonzalez, who actually his last main speech was at a real neighborhood center. You know, he wasn't able to, because of health conditions, that was one of his last speeches that for those of you who don't know, Corky Gonzalez is an iconic figure, similar to the statue of Cesar Chavez that we have over there, right, in 5 Points area, right? And well, it just, when I think of this statue of Cesar Chavez, like, I think, like, shouldn't it mean something? You know, Cesar Chavez was a vato that stood up for the people, that stood up for the Barrios Unidos, right? And there's countless other people that, you know, that have learned these lessons. I'm one of them. You know, one thing that I forgot to mention is I was also a student at Davis Bilingual Elementary School. And that's why I'm able to speak Spanish and English. You know, unfortunately, a lot of our raza are unable to because of the, you know, the historical policies that existed here in Tucson, where our kids were hit for speaking Spanish and for exhibiting traits related to Mexicanas and Mexicanos, right? And so, you know, there's this song by Lalo Guerrero. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's one of the most famous people to come out of Tucson. He wrote many of the songs for the film Zoot Suit, you know, and one of his songs is called Barrio Viejo, right? And in Barrio Viejo, you know, and I hope I get it right, I'm going off memory. He talks about, you know, this urban renewal that happened in downtown when these residents, you know, and I know they're probably, hopefully I wouldn't put it past, not you necessarily, but a body of people to clear out a neighborhood in anywhere in the world, right? But when he was talking about this memory of this barrio that no longer exists, you know, he says that, you know, it's real sad. It brings a tear to his eyes cuando en el nombre del progreso se derrumban otra pared. You know, like in the name of progress, it seems like it's always required that we tear down some kind of wall or some kind of house that's been here or some kind of barrio. And if you break them apart, that's the first step to doing things like that, because you limit their power. And anyway, I would just like to end with saying that, you know, I go through these barrios all the time. I teach in many of the schools in these barrios, and I would like to continue to enjoy the cultural wealth, you know, to eat the menudo, to enjoy the murals, to engage with my homie, like my compa, Patrick Valencia McKenna, you know, and just to experience it the way our ancestors, you know, hope that we would be able to. So with that, y'all, I'll just say, don't be so quick to associate yourselves with these people who represent the name of progress, you know, and developers. You know, represent yourselves with el pueblo, with the people, right? And you're gonna get a lot further that way. Whether you're the mayor or a city council member or whatever, whether you're raza or whatever other, you know, a walk of life or whatever. So thank you, y que vivan los barrios unidos.
Cecilia Cruz Baldenegro.
Thank you, Chairman Crum, members of the committee. Really, a lot has been said today, and there's been such eloquent speakers. I did listen, and I did see the last meeting of the committee, and I was really taken aback. I was taken aback because what I saw coming from Ward 1 and coming from the mayor's representation, I believe, Ms. Dr. Alvarez and from Mr. Robles, was a solution looking for a problem when they threw out as part of their presentation that precinct 37 should be considered to be relocated into Ward 3. And the scenario that they put before the committee was that the interstate was a barrier, that barrier from the interstate really kept that area from prospering. They really kind of discouraged the area by saying that it had potholes and that it really wasn't really in the development, and that by maybe removing and putting 37 into Ward 3, it would do better, the people would do better. And I was very confused because moving just the ward, the name of the ward, not removing the interstate or moving physically, precinct 37 didn't do anything. It just by name or by a map, configured it on the map into another ward. Not that anything would have changed. And I also started to think, well, if this precinct that they're disparaging is so bad, why are we having the gentrification that's occurring in the west side and into these districts? Why is it they so viable now? So it was very confusing. Again, also, I know that I looked on the page where we've had people signing the petition to keep precinct 37 in Ward 1. I think there's probably by now, there's close to 300, like there was the last time that the redistricting committee met, and to say do not put 37 again. So again, why is it being forced? Why is that 37 so critical to be moved out, to be divided from an area that has had such cohesion? 37 and 18 are like hand in hand. They were the original neighborhood empowerment movement came out of those two precincts, from those two areas where all those barrios are located. So that's what I'm saying. So why is it being forced again? And I know in some way, I was told on the way in, one of the speakers said to me, you know, transparency is the capital, the money of good governance. Well, right here, we're really kind of very poor. The city has been that way. The ward and the mayor's office had lacked transparency completely. So you've heard all these eloquent speakers talk about, be careful, look at who you're hurting. They're not just figures, it's not just a map, it's people. It's people who have common interests, people who have neighbors, who have families in these areas and have developed a cohesive bond to be able to fight City Hall. And we need to do it because these neighborhoods, these barrios have always been attacked under the word development. It will do better for you. But what happens is it doesn't. And what happens is what we don't have street lights, we don't have roads paved. What happens is you're sort of neglecting these areas so that, yeah, developers can come in at low prices, or if they do a little improvement, then your rents go up, and then what happens? Gentrification, right? So the improvements are always made for somebody else. And the few improvements that we do get is because we have to fight. And that's exactly what I'm hearing today. And we won't go away. But what we want from you is we want transparency. We want you to take into consideration people that matter, people in those precincts and what they want. And you've seen and heard an outcry from people here. So take that into consideration. Like I said, we will not go away. Thank you.
Salomon Baldenegro.
Good evening.
Mr. Baldenegro, could you use the upper mic? I think I will hear you better. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. First of all, I'm a West Side resident, been here all my life. I lived in Ward 1 almost all my life, but I've also lived in Ward 3 and Ward 6. And to spare you a lot of repetition, I associate myself with the comments made by all these other speakers. I share their sentiments. their feelings, and their thoughts. And I commend you for your work. I was on the Pima County Commission that redistricted Pima County. And I know the work that you do is very important, takes a lot of time. I commend you for it. I've been involved in this community for over 60 years. Over 60 years. And I spoke at this microphone, at this very microphone, over 50 years ago the first time. I was in my 20s when I came to appeal to the city council to do what they should have done on their own, which is take care of the west side. Take care of the west side. Look who's here. It's not the east side who's here complaining. They never are. We are the ones who are always having to come here and ask you or the city to do the right thing. It gets pretty tiring after a while. I've looked at this proposal to take 37, precinct 37 out of Ward 1 and put in Ward 3. I looked at it from all angles, and I can only come to one conclusion. There's a political movida going on here, a behind-the-scenes, secret political move to disenfranchise the Mexican folks on the west side, period. That's what's going on. Because by taking 37 out of the west side, that's what you're doing. You're diminishing the voting potential, the political clout of a community. Barrio Hollywood, Precinct 18, and Barrio El Rio, the 37, have a history of working together to get things done on the west side. Matter of fact, they are the parents of the neighborhood empowerment movement. In 1970, when we fought, we got together the two barrios, and then we brought in a whole bunch of other barrios. And they created what is now the neighborhood empowerment movement. And to split them up makes absolutely no sense. There's no logic. There's no rational, intellectual reason for doing that. The only reason to do that is to dilute the political aspect, the political clout that these two neighborhoods have. And that's wrong. That violates what Mr. Crum said at the beginning. It violates the Voting Rights Act in spirit. It may not do it in the letter, but it violates it in spirit. And frankly, I'm tired of being here. I'm tired of having to come here and ask people to do the right thing, for God's sake. You should do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We should not have to be coming here year after year after year after year to ask folks to do the right thing. Our community, the Mexican American community, built Tucson. Tucson would not be Tucson without us. Arizona would not be what it is without us. Yet we have to come here and beg people to do the right thing. That is wrong. That is outright wrong. Two things besides what Mr. Crum mentioned earlier. Two principles of redistricting have to do with contiguity and community of interest. Now, 37, if you put 37 in Ward 3, the freeway, the river, and the railroad tracks, and 4 miles of asphalt separate Barrio El Rio from Ward 3. A river, a freeway, and the tracks. and 4 miles of asphalt. It's 4 miles from Barrio El Rio to the Ward 3 office is 4 miles. You can't get any less contiguous than that. And the community of interest aspect, these Ward 3 people and Ward 1 people have different histories and they have different interests. So you're violating the two main principles of redistricting. And I would hope that you would consider that, and for God's sake, do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Grace Soto.
Good evening. My name is Grace Soto, Jr. I'm here representing part of the West Side. I live and my livelihood is in the West Side part of town. I am a single mother, and I am a granddaughter. I am an aunt. I am a sister, and a small business owner. My grandparents worked very hard on the West Side, coming from South 36 every day to run a little market, which is probably one of the last few tienditas in the West Side barrio, Anita, and all of West Side. I'm speaking as a mother most of all because this does affect me. I also live in Hollywood, but I was born and raised in Barrio Anita, inside the Barrio Anita market. My grandparents worked every day, and I'm also here to represent the nanas, the tatas, and the people who cannot be here, and Chicanos and Chicanas like me who are single mothers. I work every day. I cross the freeway every morning, drop my son off at Tucson High. My nieces go to Davis, they go to Roscridge. We live and work in those few miles. My grandparents died working in that little market, just like a lot of nanantatas worked to build the West Side barrio, all the barrios, with their two bare hands. I think we forget that our nanas and tatas, our ancestors, our great-great-great-grandparents worked and built all those casitas that you see in Hollywood and Sovaco, as a matter of fact. And unfortunately, you guys think that Sovaco is not going to be represented. It will be represented very soon, just so you know that. You guys lit a fire under us, and you're gonna get what you served out. Coming from one of the smallest barrios on the West Side, one of the smallest and part of historic part of Tucson, I'm telling you, you guys are going to make the biggest mistake ever. And you not only do numbers speak, where they're speaking numbers, these people do this for a living, or they're doing it out of their volunteering time to fight. We have to literally build coalitions to fight. What does that tell you? Instead of us fighting, why don't we work together? Why don't you listen, pay attention, and be transparent? They asked us, I was part of my neighborhood association for 16 years. As a 19-year-old to a 37-year-old woman, I've seen it all. You know, you guys want respect. The mayor wants respect. Well, be transparent. I voted for the mayor because I thought the mayor was going to help our barrios. And unfortunately, I don't see no action. And that's the truth. And I stayed quiet for a very long time because you know what? I said maybe I shouldn't say something, but it's obvious that we are fighting and we're all here for a reason. And the reason is from the South Side. I grew up on the South Side, Vista, 36, KBAB, 2810. I drove every day with my nana tata to go to work to the West Side part of town. So I know both sides of part of town. I grew up on both sides. So what these people are saying is the same thing over and over again. Don't you guys get tired of hearing us and seeing the same people? Pobrecito, el señor still here. How old are you? So, doesn't that say anything? You know what I mean? He's tired. I'm sure how many years you spent of your life standing right here complaining and complaining. I think we're done. I think you guys need to listen. The mayor needs to listen. Ward 1, who has done nothing for Barrio Anita, for the West Side, but make problems and do things under the table. That's all they ever did. They didn't represent us. They didn't represent me. Voting for a mayor who I thought was Chicana, looked like me, was a woman, strong woman. Honestly, my grandparents, I almost lost a business of 40 years. But you know what? God is good. And I fought hard. I fought hard because I said, you know what? Excuse my language, fuck gentrification. It ain't gonna take what my nana and tata worked 40 years hard for. So not only am I here speaking as a single mother, but a resident of Hollywood. I own a home in Anita and a small business right on the corner of Lord and Barrio Anita on Anita Street. There's a lot of history. Do you know your history? Do you know that we indigenous people were slaughtered, mother and children were slaughtered all over the west side part of town? And we still are here fighting. Still getting slaughtered, exactly. That's what it feels like every single day. We have to fight. And you know what? Thank God for us people on the west side who actually, you know what? We got each other's back. I'm good with Barrio Blue Moon, Sovaco, Hollywood, Menlo, Anita. You guys just put a fire under us that you guys don't understand. I mean, this is not the first time, so we're not, you know what I mean? We're not scared to fight. That's not the problem. We're tired. We're parents. You know what I mean? We have livelihoods aside of all of this. So please listen to the people and do what is right.
I've gone through all the cards. However, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard on this item?
I submitted a card, so I don't know what happened to it. My name is Diana Lett. I am from Feldman's neighborhood in Tucson, of course. I am not paid. I am the treasurer of Feldman's Neighborhood Association, and I am also the chair of our Neighborhood Preservation Committee. I've heard, as you have arguments all evening in favor of map 2A. All of the other maps break up communities of interest. My concern is not primarily Precinct 37, although I certainly support the West Side neighborhoods in keeping Precinct 37 in Ward 1 with the rest of the West Side neighborhoods. My primary concern is that maps 1, 2, and 3 break up, fragment, crack a community of interest, which is the historic neighborhoods of the university area and downtown. We are currently represented, as we have been for many, many decades, by Ward 6. Ward 6 is deeply familiar with historic preservation issues and is at this very moment involved in some delicate negotiations regarding 2 large parcels at the intersection of Speedway and Euclid. Maps 1 and 2 remove those parcels with surgical precision from Ward 6. That is completely unacceptable to the historic neighborhoods. Map number 3, as you've heard from West University, pulls the biggest historic district in the state out of Ward 6, again, depriving it of its historic representation that is knowledgeable, competent, and very dedicated to protecting our historic resources. So again, map 2A does not do that. It does not crack our community of interest, does not fragment our community of interest. And map 2A has the advantage over map 2B, as you've heard a detailed analysis of the demographics. It is a much better map demographically, and it does not cause the very contentious separation of Ward 37 from the rest of the West Side. So I strongly, strongly urge you to go forward with a recommendation for map 2A and against all other maps. I am particularly opposed to maps 1 and 2 because of the large parcels at Speedway and Euclid that are currently undergoing complex negotiations that our Ward 6 council member is very involved in. It is utterly inappropriate to deprive historic neighborhoods, and that's neighborhoods plural because a slice of West University neighborhood and all of my neighborhood, Feldman's neighborhood, would be pulled out of Ward 6 by maps 1 and 2. That's very, very problematic. We have at the southeast corner of that intersection, a student housing developer who wants to destroy or move historic bungalows. At the northwest corner, we have a delicate negotiation going on where the city may end up purchasing almost an entire city block from the infamous mini dorm developer Michael Goodman. So, these are delicate negotiations that are ongoing at this time. It is absolutely the wrong time, if there ever was a time, to take the historic neighborhoods or some historic neighborhoods out of Ward 6. So once again, please, please support map 2A and no other of your proposed maps. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, then, that concludes the speakers for tonight. Remember, the public hearing is continued until November the 29th. I'll now open it up to the committee for discussion.
Chairman Crum.
Yes, sir.
First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. But as I continue with my comments, I'd first like to preface it with a question. So about the second meeting, I brought up concerns about the timeline of the redistricting process. And I'd like to ask Madam Clerk once again, why did we begin the redistricting process so late?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, as I mentioned at the first meeting, redistricting is kind of a cascading effect that starts at the state level. And started in January at the state level. There were several court cases involving redistricting. I'm not even certain they've all been settled. Followed by Pima County, which has the responsibility for drawing precincts according to census blocks. That was completed in February or March, but Pima County completed their redistricting in, I believe it was May or June. And then the city, it is kind of like the tail end of the whole process for the state. We began by requesting mayor and council to appoint you. That also takes some time, and here we are tonight.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to acknowledge that all of us here are community members. We're not paid. We live in the communities or work in the communities that we're here to represent. The second or third meeting, folks came from precinct 82, I believe, with concerns because 82 was going to be moved to Ward 5. And we got to listen to folks and hear them out. Last meeting, we proposed for precinct 37 to be added to the proposal 2A and make it proposal 2B. Precinct 37 was going to be also considered up for consideration to move to Ward 3. And I'm really, really delighted tonight to hear from the community as to why we should not be moving Precinct 37 out of Ward 1. There were some comments tonight talking about diluting political power. But I'd also like to bring up the concept of packing. I believe political power at this point in time is already diluted. The majority of the Latino populations are packed into 2 wards. Each ward has 1 vote on this council. So what can we do? So the reason why these conversations have been so significant throughout this year is because we want to see what we can do to enact equity amongst our local democracy, if you will. And that begins by diversifying our wards. So that has been the premise, and that has been guiding my perspective as we've gone throughout these conversations. I appreciate what was shared tonight. I honestly do. I grew up in the South Side. I went to Sunnyside High School. I'm 21 years old, and I care about the future of this city. And I believe the future of this city ought to be more equitable, and now we're in an important moment to get the ball rolling. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. I don't believe it's right that we only have 2 wards that are minority majority. I don't believe it's right that we only have 2 wards, with the exceptions of 1 or 2 more, who have mostly had minority representation on this council. And you know what guides that is how these wards are drawn out. So, as we continue this conversation tonight, I'd like to point out that in the policies that we went through at the first meeting, there's a line that says, maintain established and recognizable ward boundaries with least disruption. I'd like to put it on the record that for mayor and council to look back at this particular policy to challenge that notion as we continue these redistricting conversations every 2 years. With that, I look forward to the conversation this evening.
Anyone else?
Chairman Crone, sorry. You know, I know the history for Valdenegro, Mr. Valdenegro brings to us. It's not his first rodeo. And he has had to face countless mayors, council members to express his concerns, along with the community members that he has always spoken for, and is respected by the community for the voice that he brings for the community. As far as you folks being here tonight, I truly appreciate it. I believe that everyone, whatever community you belong to, should be heard. But also, not only going one ear, not the other, but take into consideration the message that you're sending. Because it, like they say in Spanish, it's always la misma canción. It's always the same song. And for the communities on the west side and the south side, we've been singing this song for a long time, over and over. And it does get old. It does get old. As far as the, you know, and the people within these communities, they live there by choice and have lived there by choice for generations. They brought it up, you know, we just didn't get here last night. We've been here for a very, very long time, as long as our natives, our native community, which lives within the same ward. You know, the packing issue that Mr. Robles brings, you know, I understand it, but by the same token, the people that live there want to live there without no interruptions. They want to make, they want to have a voice in the decision-making, which I think it is crucial, that they speak not only for themselves, but for their community members and our elders that have been here for many, many years. So the voice that you guys bring is well taken. I take it to heart. I personally thought that moving 37 to 3 was not a good idea. And I stand by it. I also don't feel that 47 and 244 should be going to Ward 5 as well. There was a mention of 45, but I don't know how long Precinct 45 has been in Ward 6. Can anybody inform me on that? We have,
We'd have to look, Mr. Jaramillo, I'm not sure. We can get that information to you, though.
45 is not changing? Okay. Now, if there was a concern brought to our attention on Ward 45 to either move to 5 or 1, that would be something to think about as well. So I hear you. I hear your concerns. I share your concerns, and I hope the rest of the committee does as well. Thank you. Madam Clerk, one question. When will be the next redistricting? In 2 years?
Yes.
Okay. So we're coming to the end of this year. This has to be done by these, mayor and council have to decide by when?
Per the Tucson Charter by December 31st, 2022.
Okay, so we're burning daylight. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman Crum. Oh, please. Committee Member Jaramillo, I appreciate you bringing up the next redistricting in 2 years, because I do not appreciate how this has been rushed. I don't think any of us appreciate how this has been rushed, but our hands are tied. A decision has to be made by December 31st. However, I would also like for tonight's conversation to consist of what we can put in our recommendation memo to Mayor and Council as to setting in stone guidelines for reaching out to community and clearly laying out how we're reaching out to community. I'm glad I was able to be out there tonight listening at the press conference. And we have to take in every single opinion and listen to all folks who are going to be impacted, whether they are supportive of these precincts or not. I know Councilmember Santa Cruz agrees with that as well. But let's also entertain that tonight.
Well, I'd like to add too that we received a considerable number of emails from the community. And one of the emails mentioned, why have public hearings if you don't pay attention to what's being said? And the point was, it's not just about numbers. It's about people and people's feelings. And although the numbers are, federal government, the charter, and the code, but somehow we need to pay attention to what is being said. And that's the other part of it. Regardless of whether it's just a mayor and council policy or not, we shouldn't be paying lip service to having public hearings. So I really appreciate you all coming out tonight and speaking from your heads and your hearts and your souls. So tonight we have a decision to make. We have two proposals, 2A and 2B. So I'd like to talk about or invite the committee to talk about what they favor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank everyone at the hearing for coming out today. I think it's unfortunate that last time around we voted to create this new option to move 37 because we knew this would happen. We knew that it happened 2 years ago. There's no reason why it wouldn't happen again this year. I think we've heard you loud and clear, and there's numerous reasons to scrap Proposal 2B and not move 37. It doesn't really move us much closer in the direction of rough proportionality. It's like less than 1% difference in the minority population. It breaks up the power of the barrios, who view themselves as a cohesive community. And I also just want to point out, I just looked at the petition. Last time around, they had a petition with hundreds of signatures. They made a new petition. Right now, it has 249 signatures. So in my head, I'm imagining 249 more people sitting out there right now. And I think it was bad governance to make you guys go through this, to even suggest the proposal. And I think we should just go ahead and scrap 2B. So I'm going to make a motion to scrap Proposal 2B and not move Precinct 37.
I second that.
Second.
Anyone else? Anyone else would like to speak?
Hello, everyone. This is John Aiken on the
Is there a
phone.
second?
I seconded that.
John Aiken is on the phone.
Okay.
For discussion?
John, would you like to say something?
I just wanted to chime in real quick and say that I support Mr. Handel's proposal. I know that there was a second already. But and I obviously came to this committee late, but I do feel like it's just the most logical choice based on all of the data and input. And I just think it's probably the least painful decision for everyone. So I agree with scrapping 2B. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I will be supporting the motion to scrap Proposal 2B and not consider it. But I don't believe that your rationale and your charge is appropriate, because this still leaves us with a bigger problem, a bigger question that has to be answered. Now, I will speak to those points and what I think we need to tell Mayor and Council after the vote has been taken on Proposal 2B. But I do believe that there is a now what question that we need to ask ourselves and the members of the public, because there are some very important considerations and malinterpretations of the terminology that has been used here tonight that does not solve the problem. It will solve the problem of Precinct 37 tonight, but it will not solve the question that is before a redistricting committee, whether it's this group or any other group of citizens. So I will reserve those comments for later when we get to talk about our recommendation to Mayor and Council, but I will be supporting the motion.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Now, by scrapping 2B, that would also include 47 and 244 going to Ward 1, because that's what I'd like to propose as well.
So that both maps include 47 and 244 moving. I would be all in favor of discussing that. But just to clarify, this scrapping 2B does not change anything about the status of 47 and 244. So we could either have that, maybe like a separate discussion after, maybe?
I'd like to amend it, if I may, to include 47 and 244.
So
No, it's the same map.
I would vote.
Is there a second? Is that acceptable to the seconder?
No. Well, I'm not the seconder. I'm the original. I think we have to see if someone seconds the amendment.
I think we should move on the motion to not consider 2B, and then takes period, and then take back the consideration and action on 2A, and modify that
according to new discussion.
I agree with that, just from
Yes,
a
same here.
procedural perspective, that sounds better to me.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Then the motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
the proposal I'd like to make would be leaving 37 in Ward 1.
Well, that just passed. That's
Okay.
done. 37 is not moving.
But I thought we were going to work it on the recommended for a new proposal.
So right now, the only map we have is 2A.
Oh, okay.
So whatever we do will have to be based
Thank you
on
for the
that.
clarification.
Got it.
I got it. Yes, I'd like to also include in our new proposal to include 47 to stay in 5 and 244 to stay in 5 as well. Now, it was brought to our attention today on precinct 45, possibly moving to 5 or 1. Right? So I would propose that it goes to 5.
Wait, is this a motion or just discussion?
No, it's a motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That meets the numbers. MLD. Yeah.
So in terms of just my own feelings, or for clarification, they're talking about Barrio Histórico,
45.
formerly Barrio Viejo, right?
Yes.
And that makes it south of 18th.
So this is downtown Barrio Viejo and Armory Park?
No,
is
it's
that
already
correct?
in, that would be already in. Now, you're saying that 45 goes down to 18th Avenue? I
No,
believe.
18th Street.
Yes.
That's on the south.
Yes. And then Broadway on the north.
I believe that to be the case.
Yes. Thank you.
So that's currently in Ward 6, and you're proposing to move it toward 5, or toward 5, correct?
Correct.
All right.
I do want to point out another, oh, I'm sorry, are we?
Now, what
Do
I
we
would
have a
like to know,
second on the
first of
motion?
all, is how that affects the numbers.
Do we have a second on the motion?
Oh, is there a
Can you
second?
repeat the motion, start to finish, please?
For discussion purposes only, is there a second on the motion?
What is the motion?
To leave precinct 47 and 244 in Ward 5 and to move precinct 45 from Ward 6 to Ward 5.
So the motion is asking staff to create that map, or what exactly is the motion? To ask staff to create that map as a new official consideration? Okay.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Could you second that?
Um,
I second.
All right.
Discussion.
Discussion.
So I like the idea in general, but one problem is that we, at the last public hearing, we received a lot of complaints from the Armory Park folks who did not want to move 45 into Ward 5. So one idea is to split that precinct into, split it in half. Right now it's downtown Barrio Viejo and Armory Park. So one idea to at least consider is split it in half, give downtown and Barrio Viejo to Ward 1, leave Armory Park in Ward 6. And, you know, there's pros and cons. I just wanted to mention that as an option that we should consider.
My own observation is that if there was a problem with it, the problem would be is Barrio Histórico is a historic district. And you would be taking that away from Ward 6 and Ward 6. Most of the historic districts currently are centralized in Ward 6 or under Ward 6.
Chairman
Where
Crum.
is Barrio Histórico? I don't see that. Am I correct that Precinct 45 consists of downtown, Barrio Viejo, and Armory Park? Or is there another barrio, as the chair
No, that's
mentioned?
just, Barrio Histórico is,
Oh,
or
it's the same thing?
Viejo as you wish,
Okay, gotcha.
depending upon your age.
All right.
It's all within that precinct. Nothing, I'm not aware of any, I just don't see how you can split that particular precinct. Because it's all, as far as I remember, it's all historical.
Chairman, please.
Can we, did staff do it, all three? And the MPD is what, 14?
14.33%.
So that doesn't meet the criteria, so would Mr. Jaramillo amend that to?
Would you amend 45 going to 5 and see what the numbers look like?
I think from an MPD perspective, the problem is that Ward 1 is too small. And so if we're not moving 47 and 244 into Ward 1, we have to move something else into Ward 1. At least from a mathematical perspective, that seems to be the issue. The fundamental problem is that, as we've learned over the past few weeks, every border with Ward 1 objects to moving into Ward 1, or at least most of them. So we're a little bit limited in that way.
This is exactly, Mr. Chairman, the conundrum, and why I wish that the people who protest would also actually have the opportunity to then protect the sentiment of the cultural identity of a barrio within its boundaries, but at the same time address what the charge of redistricting is, which is meeting these other numerical criteria. You can't have it both ways. There is a way to have it both ways, but that has to consider the entire then picture, which is what we considered last week and rejected. 2 maps for majority minority that completely redo all the wards. There was no wards then. There was no Ward 1, 2 in any of the same shapes if you meet the 2 criteria. So that's the work that has to be done, and why the reaction and the feeling, like we're seeing right now, gets us back into this violation of the standard. But it has to be reconciled. I completely agree with that. It has to be reconciled. But it's tedious and difficult work.
Chairman Crum,
Yes.
this is why this committee has to be open to making bold decisions about the future of this city, or we're back at square one, and we're going to be back at square one 2, 4, 6, 8 years from now. If not this precinct, which precinct? Right?
Well, I think it's the entire precinct goes toward 5. No split. And if you remember, this is a precinct or the neighborhood that's directly south of urban renewal and the convention center.
So if you have a chance to look at the map, that moving 45 into Ward 5 brings the MPD up to 13.40%.
Chairman Crum?
Yes, sir.
Now, if we were to put it back the way it was, what would the percentage be? Put it back in 2.
Just 45?
Yes.
We're moving 45 back to Ward 6?
Correct.
Madam Chair, what's the new map? That is only, Mr. Jaramillo is only taking 47 and 244 back to 5, leaving 45 in 6. Is that the new number we're getting?
And then 244 also stays in 5, moves to
Right.
5.
47 and 244 to 5.
Yes, and 45 will stay in 6.
244 as well.
So then, does 275 and 11 stay in Ward 5 with this new
Well,
proposal?
that's my next propose.
Okay.
Just during the lull, I see a sign, New Ward 7, South Tucson. Just to clarify, we don't actually have the ability to do that.
The authority to do that.
The city charter says there has to be exactly 6 wards, and to change that, we'd need a general election. And that's not really, it's not really in our capacity. But thank you for the idea. We got to think outside the box, that's good. So was something happening with 275 and 11? Did I hear correctly? Not yet. Okay.
So just so everyone knows that 45 has not been discussed before. This is new to tonight.
Yeah.
We received an enormous amount of complaints from 45, actually, from map 1 and 3, if I remember correctly, specifically Armory Park. We must have gotten at least 10 complaints from them, probably more. So that's why I suggested we think about splitting it in half. Keep Armory Park happy, make Barrio Viejo happy. But, you know, that's not enough to fix the MPD by itself, so that's not a perfect solution.
Do we have the MPD now?
No, it's still at
Mr. Chair, we have a motion on the floor to move 47 and 244, or keep them in Ward 5, and to move 45 to Ward 5, which we've now reversed. So I don't know if the maker wants to withdraw the motion and continue working, or if we need to take a vote on the motion.
No vote yet. What I proposed was to leave 45 in Ward 6. And-
Apologies, yes.
Pardon me?
I apologize, yes. Ward 6.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Is,
And
is that an amendment to the current motion?
That is.
Okay.
Is the amendment acceptable to the maker?
Could you repeat the amendment, please?
based on, are you plugging in the numbers right now? And we're at 13.4 by moving 45 into 6? Okay.
You're not moving it, you're
I
keeping
mean, well,
it staying.
keeping it in 6, correct.
Got it.
Stand corrected.
Question, so if the only change, if the only change was to map 2A, when we change 47 and 244 back to 5, we get the MPD at 13.4? Okay.
That's correct.
And that's almost exactly what it is right now, if I remember correctly, right? If we do nothing.
Drop down to, okay, now it's,
Now it's at 8.28 with 275 and 11 moved back into Ward 4. That is different from 2A.
would you repeat that, Madam Clerk?
The MPD showing on the map, oops, it went up before my very eyes to 11.62%. That's with 275 and 11 in Ward 5, 47 and 244 are in Ward 5, and 45 stays in Ward 6.
Thank you.
So what is changed from the base map, the current situation?
47 and 244, which were proposed to be in Ward 1 on 2A, are now on this map in Ward 5.
Just to clarify my question, what is the difference between this map and the current situation, the base map, what it is today?
That 45 was gonna be moved to 5. And
So that's
we're sending for it to stay in Ward 6. And that's a new number it's given us, is at 11.262.
So the only change from the base map is moving 45 from Ward 6 into 5? No.
But I thought you had said that it
No,
was going to stay in
45
6.
stays in Ward 6. And that's a number that's being shown now, which is 11.62. Am I correct?
Yes, and the difference between this map and the base map is that 275 and 11 have been moved from Ward 4 into Ward 5 on the map on the screen, which is resulting in a deviation of 11.62%.
Okay, thank you. What if we moved 45 into 1 instead of moving it into 5? Because again, like the name of the game here is to grow Ward 1 relative to what it is now, at least in terms of MPD.
Yeah, could we make that
There,
change?
that's less than 10 now. So this is actually a possible option that we have.
Moving 45 to 1 gives us
Okay.
8.9.
Okay.
There we go.
That may be it in terms of the metric.
And that gives us that 8.9?
I would just remind the committee that 45 was part of the initial public hearing with a lot of public comments about staying in Ward 6.
What if we,
Yeah.
yeah, if we do this, we'll have to, you know, we would not be listening to what the Armory Park folks wanted. Now, maybe it's impossible to get something that everybody likes, but we at least need to consider that. So what if we split 45 in half, left the east side, Armory Park, in Ward 6 where it is now, and moved the west half into Ward 1? I bet we'll be around like 11%, but that would at least get us close, and then if we bring one more thing, then we might get under 10%. I have a question for the Ward 5 representative, Mr. Jaramillo. What, do you have any thoughts on moving 54 or 232 from, wait, no, that's, nope, I take it back. That wouldn't help. That would make it worse. Never mind.
$9.44.
Oh, is this under 10? 9.56.
Is this the split? According to that, Barrio Viejo
9.8.
Okay,
Well,
it's under 10.
oh, no, it moved again.
It's still processing. We
Okay.
should see it shortly.
We may have to make one more move, either into Ward 1 or out of Ward 4. What if we just move something from 4 into 2?
That could work.
Well, would that help? Yeah.
124. 124 would seem to be the one that hovers on, from 4 to 2 is contiguous there for a little bit.
Well, then there's, sorry,
124, Don, go ahead.
precinct 262 is a split. Don't know what it means to consolidate that split entirely into 2.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Would it be possible to expand the bottom part of the screen a little bit so we can see all 5 of the ward sizes? Because we just need to figure out, we need to move one thing from something that's too big to something that's too small, and I bet that would get us below 10%. So if we can move something, so okay, so now Ward 5 is too big. So what if we actually do let Ward 5 have either, have 275, which I know we just took that out, but if we put that back, would that get us below 10%?
Are you saying move 275 back to Ward 4?
Yes.
I would say half.
Maybe half too, because it's got almost 6,000 people.
Well, yeah, let's see, before we cut it in half, let's see what the MPD would be if we moved the whole thing. And if we overshot, then we cut it in half. Okay, so this is, okay, so that actually went up. Okay.
Couldn't they? Like you mentioned.
Oh, let's not have any side conversation.
Can we go back to the one just before that? What was it? The one that had the 9.28? What, let's see if we can tweak from there.
So just to kind of reset for a quick second, make sure we're all on the same page. Can we, right now, this is only different from the base map, the current map, in that 45 is now split and the west half has moved into Ward 1. Is that the only difference, or is there, oh, 245 and 11, 275 and 11 are moved from 4 to 1. So there's 3 changes between the base map and this proposal. And we're at 10, we're so close. So we just need to make one more change from something that's too big into something that's too small. And Ward 5 is too big, and Ward 1 is too small, but none of those precincts want to move over. So can we move from 5 into 4? Okay, so now I do like Mr. Jaramillo's suggestion of splitting 275 in half, or some percentage that it gets us below 10%. I think that'll work.
And that would be north to south in the middle.
Okay. I don't know that precinct. So whatever is the most sensible way to split it.
Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Chair. I have a question. This is John Aiken. I do apologize. I mean, last meeting was my first meeting, but last week or last meeting, it seemed as though everyone was all in favor of 2A, and now we're trying to reinvent 2A again. And I'm just trying to understand what the changes were that prompted this discussion.
The whole night.
I'll just say the changes that we heard a lot of comments from the public tonight at the hearing from precincts 44 and 47 and 244, saying that they did not want to move out of Ward
And
5.
47.
Yeah, 47 and 244. So we're kind of trying to find a way to accommodate that now.
All right. Thank you for that explanation.
So now we're trying to split 275 in half or thirds or some percentage to give a little bit of it back to Ward 4, which I think will bring the MPD down just below 10%. And I think if that works, we would have a map that no one is upset about, and in fact, some people would be actively happy about, which would be really cool.
Well, we won't know if folks will be upset about it yet. Still, the Ward 1 population is down with this proposal, which is why I'm inclined to still support Proposal 2A. Our population goes up 4,000 to 89,000, and we're almost matching the other wards.
What if we were to do something with precinct 98?
Where is that?
It's 29
29th Street.
and South Alvernon. It's east and north.
Well, that precinct was moved a couple years ago, right? And once again, folks, we're moving precincts back and forth for the sake of convenience, and that is not sustainable for the city.
So the only reason I mentioned that is if we need to balance some population, that would be available from Ward 6, for example, if you were to split it.
And to Patrick's point, I mean, if we do find something that's like 9.9%, like that's great, but they will have to probably redo it as soon as the populations shift a little bit. So we're sort of kicking the can down the road.
That's exactly what you have supported this whole time, is an inaction on the real questions of equity, packing, dilution, all of which were completely inappropriately understood by public opinion. And that, what we're doing is saying that those sentiments overrule these other considerations, and because of that, we will have to accept the status quo, and the only thing we will be able to do is tell the mayor and council that they have this problem and they have to address it with a large effort of community engagement, education, participation that goes outside of the timing that is strictly put on the Redistricting Commission. That is a study that needs to begin at least 18 months before the next Redistricting Commission, if the members of the public that are here and remain and wanted to be part of the solution really want to then get into the mathematics, as some of you did, which was very helpful. But that will require that type of study and courage really to do it, to redraw the entire map with a consideration that addresses packing and dilution and Hispanic vote and all of those things outside of this. This is not gonna get us there, but it will make us go home and feel like we didn't rock this boat today. And yes, and that's okay with me because of the time compression, but it will only be acceptable for me if we strongly make that case to mayor and council, that we have a problem.
Yeah.
And the problem is one of broad participation and political education on the terms on which the redistricting have to meet the standards of the Supreme Court, which is very different from keeping the
Well, in
status
the
quo.
meantime, while this is being studied, the population of Tucson is also changing.
Yep.
So that will enter into that
Mathematics.
evaluation as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
what is being shown on the screen at 10.65, is that taken into consideration splitting 275 or no? Okay.
Can we try that? Split 275 in
That would
half,
be,
and bring some of it back into Ward 4, see if that gets us below 10%.
So how many split precincts does that leave the city with? 1, 2,
8,
3,
I
4.
believe.
I'm sorry?
I think it's 8, but double check.
8? I'm not good at math, I gotta see. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't think this is sustainable, folks. On that note, I'd love to see where my colleagues feel about precincts 186 and 153 going into Ward 1.
Where are those?
Those are on the northwest side.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Top
we
left
talked
corner
about
of the
that at
map.
the first meeting. Ward 3 strenuously objects to that because they've put so much funding and effort and staff into helping the folks in those communities. And we think it would be really inappropriate to, take that away right when they just started working with them.
How far is the Ward 3 office from precinct 153, would you say?
I don't know, I think we have a map in here. So the office is in 166?
Chairman Crum?
Yes, sir.
On the split, would it be possible to split, I know that you're doing it east and west, but would it be feasible to do it north and south in the middle?
Is that 275?
Yes, ma'am, 275.
Committee member Handel, I'll hold off on my comments until we go through this
Yeah,
particular
I
process
just
for the
looked
sake
at
of
map.
organization.
It's equally far from Wards 1 and Ward 3 offices. It's almost exactly equal.
That doesn't involve us.
And let's visit this after our colleagues.
So that's. So just like this. Okay.
May I also enter for the record the following comment? You may notice that the reason we keep doing the maps is because we have a metric that is clearly spelled out, and that is the MPD. We don't have a metric that says what is voter dilution. We don't have a metric that says what is rough proportionality in terms of majority, if we had those metrics, then we would have something else to respond to as we make those judgments. Right now, this entire conversation is focusing only on one metric, which doesn't even take account of cultural sense of belonging, of neighborhood history, but it's clearly a metric, and we are all focused on meeting it. We need other metrics.
I mean, I think the most important metric we've been considering this whole time is number of people who are outraged. And, you talk about courage. I think splitting up the barrios and breaking up communities is not courage. We talk about big picture. I'm confident that there's a way to do this while, improving our city in the long-term future without ripping communities apart. And I think we need to hold ourselves to that standard.
And I believe this committee made that known at the top of this meeting. But I'd like to revisit 153 and 186. Are we
Yeah, that-
necessarily splitting up communities if they're just as far from the other ward?
I mean, that's really a non-starter for Ward 3. There's there's ongoing projects there with I mean, you saw Kevin Dahl's letter. You know, they've put in a lot of money and they've hired staff, a lot of effort into, you know, helping those communities. I think it would be wildly inappropriate to try to strip that away. That's just a non-starter.
Now,
Mr.
one
Chair.
thing to appreciate here that drives me crazy to say this, but when we're talking about rough proportionality and those 6 points, those are policies, mayor and council policies. There are certain things that we have to still do in terms of percentages. So you're probably right on terms of let's define rough proportionality. But understand it's still a mayor and council policy and not necessarily something that has to be done. Doesn't mean that we can't say we need to raise the importance of certain items. But for now, yeah, it's pretty confusing what these things mean. But we need to move ahead.
And you know, given the requirements that this committee has to meet, any ward, no matter what precinct we move, every single ward, whatever precinct, oh, let me start my comments, I'm getting jumbled. What I'm trying to say is every ward's gonna have to build a relationship with every new precinct that's either moved in or moved into their ward. So, you know, I don't necessarily believe that because relationships are beginning to be built, that should be the non-starter for some proposed changes.
I just want to clarify, it's not a beginning, it's an ongoing project. I think if you tried to take those wards out of Ward 3, those precincts out of Ward 3, they would lose that money, you'd be devastating communities, it's just not a good idea.
Mr. Chair, I know this is a little bit off topic, but I definitely take to heart what you've said from the beginning about hearing people and hearing how people feel. And, you know, I know that we're balancing it with the very disimpassioned guidance and regulations with what we have to do here. I think part of the process too is that this is guided by political, and I say this and it probably sounds like heresy. I'm here as a ward designee from an elected member. And what I hear, though, are community members at this hearing, and though I wasn't at the first public hearing, I did read the public comments, and I've read all of the public comments that have been submitted to date. And it is impassioned people who are invested in their community. And part of my recommendation would be to the mayor and council to consider an independent commission in the future that is nominated from the folks who are the most invested in the outcome. So regardless of the political investment that's made in these neighborhoods, these folks have generational investment in the outcome of the decision of this body. And I think that there should be a process by which that is a more meaningful guided piece than a political appointee sitting here for 4 weeks trying to do their best, but I don't live in these communities, and I need their influence in this process more so than my good intentions.
Thank you.
Chairman Crum,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask you that percentage at 10.65 goes into effect splitting Ward 7 to
It
75.
splits 275 between Ward 5 and Ward 4.
That didn't change much from the previous one, right? I mean, you have 5,000 residents in there, is that correct?
There is a lot of vacant land in that part of town, so the residents may be.
Yeah, but we crunched numbers that were less, and it really didn't tweak it much, for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, so if we move 275 all the way back into 4, that made the MPD much higher if I'm remembering correctly.
No, it's not gonna change it.
So there must be some way to split it that gets in the middle, right? It might not be like halfway through the geographic section, but there must be like some population center. I don't know if the software like has that level of granularity. Maybe it does. Are those highlighted ones where most of the people live in that precinct? Okay, so splitting it is a little tricky. I see that. But yeah, can we just shave like a tiny bit on the north side and have that be a split? I mean, just at least to see what it looks like. Quick question for staff. How often does the population get updated? Is it only every 10 years in the census? And if so, does that mean that the next redistricting committee 2 years from now will be working with exactly the same population numbers that we have now?
No, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the population numbers are updated, I believe, annually.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious, how are they updated without the United States Census? Well, I mean, there may be other ways of knowing, but I personally do not know. The reason I'm asking is that, you know, if we kick the can down the road till the next one, but that kick lasts for 10 years because it goes all the way till the next census, I'd be fine with that. That's good. But if it updates every year, then
That's not how the census works. They keep updating regularly all the time. It's just the official national census every 10 years, but in terms of population blocks and things, you can get updated information, sometimes even quarterly.
And just for the committee's knowledge and people in the audience, the city redistricts every 4 years, and we get updated census data for each redistricting process. But we also, I believe, Planning and Development Services as part of their mission updates population figures annually.
We're gonna be pretty close.
While we're waiting for that to process, we redistrict every 4 years and 2 years after a decennial census. This is the 2 years after the decennial census. We'll be redistricting again in 2024.
Yes, where are we going?
But in 275.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the split was, okay, just like that little bit in the top. Oh, I see. Because 275 is it even contiguous? There's like a little triangle at the top. Is that connected to the rest of 275? Does it just go through, what is that, the airport? Or, so if we're taking the little sort of disconnected top triangle and making that its own precinct, then that brings us down to 9.38, is that correct? All right, well, that looks good to me.
Let's just hope there's no people living in that triangle that show up on the 29th, because we know the way that will go.
Well, we've had that on the map for a little while. Haven't heard any feedback. This is not a change. I mean, they're already in Ward 4. I don't think they would come yell at us about keeping them where they are.
How does the Ward 4 representative feel about this? And does the Ward 4 representative know about this particular, I'm asking because I would love some guidance on how, what this community is like.
I don't have a particularly strong opinion. You know, I think it's fine. Again, I feel a little bit behind the eight ball because last meeting was only my first meeting. And so I'm still trying to learn. I wasn't obviously at the first public meeting, but I agree with Mr. Handel. I don't really think there's going to be any, I don't think there's really going to be any significant feedback. I don't think there's any, I can't even actually imagine any negative feedback. So I apologize for the lack of detail on my comment. I don't have the full context, but that particular piece is not going to be an issue.
So to summarize, this new map, which I'm guessing we're going to call 2C, makes no one unhappy, at least that we've heard of. We've even had, no one in 275 or 11 has complained either way, whether we left them in Ward 4 or moved them into Ward 5. We haven't heard a single comment from them at all, so presumably they're relatively okay with it. This keeps 47 and 244 in Ward 5 where they want to be, as we learned today at the hearing. It keeps Armory Park where they are, as they made it clear that they want. It moves Barrio Viejo out of Ward 6, which we heard today they want. And everyone's happy, and it's below 10%? Is this like perfect?
I did have one question. Where did we land on 124 that's currently in Ward 4?
124 is still in Ward 4 on both maps 2A and
Right.
2B.
Great. And 275 will be fine. It'll be fine. There's no issue there. I think that one little sliver that we're talking about, there's one neighborhood in there. I mean, there's a bit of an identity thing because all those, that neighborhood is associated with, the Vail School District. But, on the other side of it is Sunnyside. I don't see it's an issue. This is not a super vocal community, so I don't see it being a problem.
Chairman Crum,
Yes, sir.
the percentage is being shown on the screen at 938. Is it still working or it's good to go?
It's good to go. It's 9.38%.
Thank you.
This looks good to me. I mean, this is by far the best map we've ever had in terms of the community liking it. And ultimately what we're all here for is to represent our community, and that seems good to me.
Chairman Crum,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt, what number would this be?
2C?
2C, as presented to us tonight.
I second that.
discussion.
Mr. Chair, before we discuss that motion, we still have the original motion on the table that has not been acted on. Does the maker want to withdraw that motion?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw the previous motion
Thank you.
and propose 2C.
I second that.
And 2C specifically is,
2C would be leaving 37 in Ward 1, 47 and 244 in Ward 5, and that would be splitting 275. And 45, as it is.
so 45 would be split as well. North-south.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, to clarify, the line splitting them is north-south. The split is east-west. Like, the precinct now has an eastern side and a western side.
Correct. Well, while we're doing splits, by the way, precinct 42, it's indicated a split going east-west. Actually, that should be going north-south. It's just a correction on the map, because that's where the two neighborhoods separate. Is not east and west, rather north and south.
Staff, are we sure of that?
Well, right now, it's
On the base map.
on the base map.
In the new map is north and south, 42.
Well, it's not changed in any of our new maps, so. So
North-south, you want it east-west.
Oh, okay.
No, we want it.
Yeah, east-west.
I would just like to point out to the committee that the new proposed map still does not solve the issue of Ward 1 having the least amount of folks in the city.
it does get closer though, but that's true. It doesn't solve it.
Right.
Wait, so are we saying that we want to change the way that 42 is made, or are we saying that the map has an error?
Yeah, the map is in error because the two neighborhoods are like this. They're not like this.
Are you sure?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the map is current as long as I can remember that split being there, where it's north-south. Are you asking to amend the motion to make it split east-west?
Yes, between North University, basically that would be Ward 3, and Feldman's would be Ward 6.
So, but just to clarify again, are you saying that the map has an error, or are you proposing a change to the current situation?
Well, the city clerk's office is saying, no, the map is not in error. I'm just saying, you pass this, and you're going to have two pieces of neighborhoods in each ward.
So my understanding is that 42, the south half of it is Feldman and North University, and those are both in Ward 6.
Right. The east side of that is actually North University. The west side of that is Feldman's.
Right, both of which are in Ward 6, correct?
So I'm just saying, let's clear it up because it's not accurate right now in terms of the neighborhoods. Is that okay?
So if we redraw the split, you want the dividing line to be Euclid?
I would have to go back and look at the the maps, but I believe that's,
So if you look at the neighborhood associations document that we received, there's Feldman's on the southwest corner, there's North University on the southeast corner, there's Jefferson Park in the top right, and Sugar Hill in the top left. And the line between them is a horizontal line.
So currently, the split has North University and Feldman's in Ward 6.
right.
So I'm not sure where the error is. Did you
But
want-
North University is going to Ward 3. Right? I'm just saying North University is going to Ward 3.
Are you making that as an amendment?
I thought that was the understanding all
According to the
along.
map, it's in Ward 6.
Wait, Chair Crum, just to clarify, are you proposing a change or are you proposing a clarification on an erroneous map?
Yeah, I'm just saying that rather than the north part of the precinct going to Ward 3 and the south part of it going to Ward 6, the more accurate representation of that in terms of neighborhoods would be the east side of that precinct would go to Ward 3, and the west side of that precinct would go to Ward 6.
So that would move North University into Ward 3 and keep Feldman's in Ward 6.
When you say go to, do you mean move from where they are now?
Say again?
When you say that North University would go to Ward 3, does that mean that you want to move them from Ward 6, where they currently are, into Ward 3? Or are you saying that they're already in Ward 3 right now?
If you're talking the North University neighborhood, it is currently in Ward 6 and the south side of the dividing the split. If the idea is to change the split and move North University into Ward 3, then we would have to go to a vertical split at Euclid.
Okay.
And that was a discussion originally, is Ward 3 getting that regardless of North University would go to Ward 3. That's what my impression was in terms of the original discussion.
Is anyone else confused?
Just a little.
Can staff answer what? Well, we got the answer from staff. Chair Crum, are you proposing an amendment to move North University out of where they are now into a new ward?
I understood the original discussion being that North University would be going to Ward 3.
Like in proposal number 1? You're right, proposal number 1 would have moved both Feldman and North University from Ward 6 into 3.
So
But we killed proposal 1.
we need to leave the north side of 42 in Ward 3 because it is where the Ward 3 council office is located. That was the end of that conversation a couple meetings ago.
Oh, well.
Chairman Crum, this is John Aiken. I'm being advised that North University, I think it's 131, is already in Ward 3, according to the city website. Is that not correct?
As far as I can tell, there's no motion, no amendment,
Okay, fine,
right? I mean,
fine.
it,
We're not tight on it all. Okay. Oh, Steve would want to keep going, so we keep both. So what I'm hearing is Ward 6 will retain North University neighborhood, all of precinct 42.
no, 42 is split. None of the proposals we've discussed today do anything to 42.
Okay, let's leave it as is.
There you go.
Never mind. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman Crum?
Yes, sir.
So the motion stands as submitted?
Been seconded.
Can
been
we
seconded.
repeat the motion, please?
Go ahead.
Okay, the motion is that we, for 2C, proposal 2C, that 37, precinct 37 stays in Ward 1. Precinct 47 and 42 stay in Ward 5. And there's a split from Ward 5 to Ward 4. That's correct?
May I make a friendly suggestion? You said precinct 42. I believe that you meant precinct 244.
Yes, 47 and 244 stay in 5. Thank you.
And 45 is a split?
That's split, right?
Got
As
it.
proposed, yes. And 275. And that'll bring us to 9.38, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Which is under our target, just barely.
So just to clarify, to make sure I understand, relative to the base map, as in what we have today, right now, this moves 11. It splits 275 and moves some of it into Ward 5. And it splits 45 and moves the western part of that into Ward 1. That's the only three changes that we'd be making. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, one of the guidelines we had was, minimal disruption. This certainly achieves that.
Is the motion up for discussion?
Are we ready for the question? No, in other words, no more discussion.
Okay.
Question? Yes. I'd like a roll call.
Mr. Robles?
No.
Ms. Darling?
Can I pass? No, okay, sorry. No.
Mr. Hendel?
Yes.
Dr. Alvarez?
Yes, but I will note my objections after the vote.
Mr. Jaramillo?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
What about the Ward 4?
Mr. Aitken?
Yeah, aye.
Passes 5-2. Passes 5-2.
Okay, motion passes 5-2.
Great.
So now we have two maps that we're considering.
Well, we have 2A, right? And then 2C?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So now we can either bring both of those into the next public hearing and pick at that one. Or we could pick right now and just go into the next hearing with just one option and see what people think, right? Those are our two choices at this point. Well, I guess we have more choices than that, but those are like the two most obvious choices.
Okay. Are we ready for item number 5, discussion of recommendation to mayor and council?
Mr. Chairman, I voted for this option of map 2C because it's pretty clear that this is as far as we will be able to go in terms of reaching consensus without, I also respect my two council commission members who voted no, and I believe I understand why. Mr. Hindell said that everybody's happy. I am not happy because, as it turns out, a larger principle of the dilution of the Hispanic vote in the city of Tucson has been overlooked and overshadowed here. If you look at any of the voting rights organizations in the state of Arizona, Chispa, Lucha, the grassroots organizations that are fighting for Latino representation, statewide, you will notice that the issue of the city of Tucson not conforming with rough proportionality as defined by the Supreme Court on the dilution of ethnic vote by packing the Hispanic vote into districts that are predictably Hispanic and that remain Hispanic and do not allow for the greater expansion of political power across the city wide. That is not something that Mayor Regina Romero invented. That's not something that this commission came up with. That is a Supreme Court finding about what it means to dilute the vote in a city that has a minority majority. It is as imperative as it is the MPD. The problem is that there is no metric to measure that. There is no actual number that could illustrate that, as you correctly stated. So I do want to say that when people tonight spoke for the contiguous identity of the barrios, absolutely, that is something that was listened to and respected and that guided the decisions tonight. But that in itself also went intrinsically against the opportunity to actually increase power and representation precisely for those communities that were clamoring for that response. So when we go to mayor and council, we need to propose a plan and a long-term engagement that actually engages that very same community in trying to answer that question about the Latino vote in a city that is not right now living to that potential and to that mandate, which is an ethical mandate and is a mandate of democracy in any case.
My preference would be that if we do it verbally, sometimes verbal recommendations, they're put on the back burner or they're slow to recognize. I would much prefer if we add to, after the recommendation, a discussion of the concerns that we've expressed right now, as well as what we discussed last time is talking about looking towards a third minority ward. Because again, my concern is that having worked for the bureaucracy, if you're not really specific and you don't put things in writing, things have a way of either being forgotten or taking a lot longer than what we want. And it would be much better, in my mind, is if when we reach certain points, or it may be a study commission that's required to look at these things.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, just to close my comments, I don't think I have tonight a solution for that. In fact, one of the members of the public that spoke precisely made a very smart remark that by considering 2B, in fact, the argument that we had used last week to consider 2B was deflated because it only moved the Latino vote up 1/10 of 1%. So absolutely, that was a correct analysis, and that was very much in line with the kind of consideration. But the point remains that there is a point of principle that we, as a commission, fail to address, and that I don't have a map tonight that I could have. We did consider two, and they were absolutely disruptive. So that means that council will have to define disruption to the degree that this other goal is going to be accomplished in tandem with the sentiments of the community. That work remains to be done. And it should be stated on the record that that work is important, is valuable, and it was not done by this commission, not for any lack of trying. It just simply wasn't possible to accomplish it in this time and with this particular process.
Is there a possibility of that being a part of our recommendation to the mayor and council?
I would like that.
Then let's do that. Is saying, here's our recommendation and the discussion of, here's the kinds of things that need to be discussed and decided upon. Make sense? And I'd like to, I've read a lot of recommendations to the mayor and council on these things, and they go on for pages and pages and pages. If we can keep it down to, numbers and bullet points and things like that, that would be my preference. So people read this, we get to the point, but we also talk about, by the way, it's time to talk about some concerns. And I'll tell you, one of my concerns, although I don't think we need to discuss it, is more and more, I think we're going to be, this commission or this committee will be hearing from individual neighborhoods saying, we don't want to get moved. Well, talk about getting some direction. What do we do with, is it going to continue to be this way? Ah, boy.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
would definitely support us adding to the recommendation memorandum to mayor and council that we ask them to revisit the language around minimal disruption. Redistricting is disruptive. That's, there's no way around it. Now, secondly, I'd love to learn from staff, what goes into the process of putting together a recommendation? Is it a matter of motions, then staff puts it on paper for us, or are committee members putting together the memorandum collectively?
Your timing is perfect. I started a draft recommendation that's based on previous recommendations, so absolutely edit, but it just basically lists kind of what's happened to date, and there's a big blank spot for your recommendation, all of which you've discussed, not just the redistricting recommendation, but future plans. We can pass out hard copies. We can email it to you. In the interest of time, perhaps you want to take it with you and review it and add your input over Thanksgiving and come back on the 29th with something a little more fleshed out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd love a digital copy if possible.
Can I get a copy of it? Yes, ma'am. welcome. So to be on the website or?
We can put it up on the website and we'll email it electronically to you so you can edit it, the committee.
There you go. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'd just like to say, we will email it to you. Please don't reply all. Please don't send your edits to the whole committee because this is part of your future official action. So it shouldn't be shared before the next public meeting.
Just to be clear, so this document that you share does not include tonight's comments?
Correct.
Okay.
That's to comply with the open meeting law requirements. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
public comment is still open for our next meeting as well, or okay, just, thank you.
Mr. Chair, my understanding is that we now have two maps that are still on the table, 2A and 2C. So it seems to me that we have two choices now. We can either say, those are our two maps, we're going to consider both. People at the public, people can come talk to us about which of them they prefer at the next hearing, and then we will decide at the next meeting as our final recommendation. Or we can pick one of those two right now and go forward into the next hearing with just one of them. So my first question is that a correct assessment of our choices? And second question is, which one does the committee prefer?
I would like to make sure that we consider both maps. It's the reasoning behind why I asked for an extension on the public hearings, to ensure that we have enough public input.
Right, and that can be a part of the discussion. Yes.
I agree with that.
Good.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion? I think one thing we want to do is be very clear to the public that only maps 2A and 2C are on the table, because I hate to, we had some people today come out in support or opposition to maps that had already been killed, and just out of respect for the public's time, I don't want to make people come here and, if it's not going to be something that would be relevant, so.
So we're not asking the mayor and council to make a decision between 2A and 2C.
Right,
Our
right,
recommendation
right.
is 2C.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I guess I'll make a motion that we inform the public that the only maps on the table at this point are 2A and 2C, moving into the public hearing on November 29th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. At 5:30?
At 5:30 on the 29th, yes. Does that,
Got it.
Patrick, is that what you had in mind?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, so that's item 7.
Do we want to take a vote on that motion?
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Okay. Adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
So for the public here, there is a public hearing again on November 29th at 5:30, where public comment will be taken on maps 2A and 2C.